In the year 2326, within the Samhan Empire, a desperate chase unfolds at the Mount Soke frontline base. Second Lieutenant Kim Tae-ju runs for his life, desperately trying to escape a group of soldiers pursuing him from behind. The soldiers shout in panic, knowing they will face severe consequences if they fail to capture him, as they close the distance. Exhausted and struggling to breathe, Tae-ju can't help but wonder what he did to deserve such relentless pursuit. Before he can recover, his path is abruptly blocked by First Lieutenant Jang In-dong, the platoon leader of the frontline base and a low-rank beginner awakener. Jang mocks Tae-ju's condition, ridiculing him for struggling to run and sneering that a dying mana reject like him should know better. Confused and terrified, Tae-ju demands to know why he is being targeted. Jang appears genuinely surprised that Tae-ju doesn't understand, coldly stating that someone like him should have died long ago. He explains that Tae-ju surviving until the age of 29 has only served to irritate her. At that moment, Tae-ju realizes that her refers to his stepmother, Honda Mitsui. As Tae-ju reacts, Jang warns him to watch his words, reminding him that she is still his mother. Without hesitation, Jang draws his sword and strikes. The strike lands. Tae-ju falls to the ground. Looking down at him with a cruel smile, Jang reveals that Lady Mitsui's 2 sons will inherit the Paiyu land 300 years earlier, in the year 2026. During a mysterious eclipse, an unknown energy known as mana descended upon Earth. This sudden influx wiped out 90% of humanity, destabilized the global climate, and led to the collapse of civilization. Over the following centuries, the surviving population adapted to the presence of mana and gradually rebuilt society. However, peace was short-lived. Mana altered wildlife and plant life, creating powerful magical beasts and toxic vegetation, which plunged humanity into a prolonged and brutal war. As the conflict continued, society established a rigid hierarchy based entirely on one's compatibility with mana. At the top are the awakened, below them are the mana-compatible, next are the mana-adaptive, at the very bottom are the mana rejects. Despite being the eldest son of Brigadier General Kim Wongbang, a revered top-tier awakened known as a master, Tae-ju was born a mana reject. His body is slowly deteriorating due to mana poisoning, and throughout his life, he has endured constant humiliation, labeled as worthless, a burden, the family's disgrace. Now, as Tae-ju lies after being betrayed by his own stepmother, something unusual begins to unfold. Within a mysterious, star-filled mental space, an old man appears. He stands alone, frustrated that despite dedicating his life to achieving immortality through energy cultivation, he has failed to reach heaven. Looking around in confusion, he notices that the ancient buildings of his family are strangely merged with unfamiliar, modern structures, signaling that something is deeply wrong. The old man questions where he is and whether he is truly dead. Spotting someone before him, he commands them to stand up and reveal their face. This man is Tang Gunak, the infamous supreme poison demon and head of the Sichuan Tang clan, renowned as a master of poison and hidden weapons. In his time, when the demonic cult violently seized control of the martial arts world, Tang Gunak single-handedly defeated the heavenly demon cult leader, and establishing himself as the ultimate authority in the martial world. It is then revealed that Tang Gunak shares the same soul as Kim Tae-ju. While attempting to transcend mortality and ascend beyond his physical form, his soul crossed time and space, connecting with Tae-ju's fading consciousness. The moment their eyes meet within this shared mental realm, their memories begin to merge. Through this exchange, Gunak realizes that Tae-ju is essentially his counterpart in another world. As their memories intertwine, Gunak witnesses the painful life Tae-ju has endured. Despite possessing immense latent potential, he was despised and cast aside due to the rigid classification of being a mana reject. Accepting this shared existence, Gunak declares that they are one and the same. Without hesitation, he passes on his vast combat experience and profound martial arts knowledge, urging Tae-ju to master these ancient techniques and rise to the pinnacle of this new world. Before disappearing, Gunnak encourages him to live freely and forge his own path. Back in reality, Taeju suddenly gasps awake. As he struggles to breathe, he quickly realizes that the encounter was no illusion. Tang Gunnak's knowledge remains vividly intact within his mind. Drawing upon these newly acquired memories, Taeju understands that if he wishes to survive his current condition, he must immediately utilize the martial art that made Gunnak legendary, the formless primordial poison spirit art. This technique allows the user to grow stronger by consuming and refining poison. Scanning his surroundings, Taeju notices numerous toxic plants scattered across the forest floor. Despite the overwhelming pain, he forces himself to move. With trembling hands, he gathers the poisonous plants and, driven by sheer will to survive, consumes them without hesitation. Though the taste is unbearable, he continues, determined to convert the poison into pure internal energy using Gunnak's methods. His goal is to form the poison essence, a concentrated core of refined poison within his body. By rebuilding himself through this forbidden technique, Taeju seeks to break free from the curse of being a mana reject and reshape his destiny entirely. As a vivid green glow of toxic energy flares within his eyes, Taeju makes a firm and chilling vow. He will survive, no matter the cost, and ensure that those who caused his suffering are held accountable. His path of vengeance begins with First Lieutenant Jang In-dong. Under the cover of night, deep within the forest near the frontline base, a group of soldiers searches frantically, sweeping the ground with flashlights. However, their frustration quickly turns to shock when they discover Kim Taeju sitting cross-legged on the ground, very much alive. A vivid green aura surrounds him as he calmly circulates energy throughout his body. Instead of relying on mana, which his body rejects, Taeju is now drawing upon the inner energy generated by his newly formed poison essence. The soldiers are both confused and alarmed, unable to comprehend how a so-called mana reject could exhibit such power. Panic spreads among them, and one soldier urgently orders the others to kill Taeju before the situation escalates. As a soldier charges forward with his sword, Taeju remains composed, releasing a wave of green energy that effortlessly repels the attacker. Feeling the surge of strength flowing through him, Taeju realizes that he finally has the power to confront those who have tormented him for so long. At that moment, First Lieutenant Jang In-dong steps forward, observing Taeju with a smug, condescending smile. He questions Taeju's sudden composure and wonders if he has somehow experienced a late awakening. However, Jang quickly notes the absence of a facial mark, the defining trait of an awakened individual. In this world, awakeners are ranked in a strict hierarchy: master, expert, regular, beginner, and user. Upon awakening, a mark appears on the face to signify one's level. As Taeju studies Jang, he recognizes that the platoon leader is merely at the beginner level. Drawing from the memories of Tang Gunnak, the supreme poison demon, Taeju evaluates Jang through the lens of martial arts and concludes that he is nothing more than a low-level opponent. With newfound confidence, Taeju calmly greets Jang, catching him off guard. Enraged by what he perceives as arrogance from someone he considers insignificant, Jang demands to know if those are Taeju's final words before ordering all his men to attack simultaneously. Unfazed, Taeju prepares for his first battle in this transformed state. Sliding a few ordinary coins between his fingers as improvised hidden weapons, he draws mockery from Jang, who questions his sanity. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Taeju remains perfectly calm, a direct result of inheriting Tang Gunnak's vast combat experience. Although mana has always rejected him, Taeju now walks a different path, the ancient and deadly art of the poison demon. As the soldiers rush toward him, he executes techniques from his past life with precision, including the flying dagger art's swift strike and the phantom mirage steps. Moving with remarkable speed and control, he effortlessly evades their attacks and defeats them one by one, closing the distance between himself and the stunned platoon leader. Infused with toxic green energy, the strike lands directly on Jang's chest, sending him crashing into a nearby tree. Jang collapses to the ground, severely injured and trembling with fear. He stares at Taeju in disbelief and demands an explanation, insisting that it should be impossible for someone without a facial mark to use such a powerful technique. Taeju looks down at the fallen man and coldly remarks that Tangunak would be deeply offended to hear his profound martial arts reduced to a mere skill. He firmly declares that even powerful awakeners are helpless against the absolute lethality of his poison. With a steady gaze, Taeju asks Jang how it feels to finally be on the receiving end of the very bullying he once inflicted on others. Completely broken, Jang begins to beg for his life, but it is already too late. The poison has taken hold. Sometime later, the scene shifts to the Samhan Empire, a vast nation formed after the catastrophic Manhwa event through the unification of the former lands of Korea, China, and Japan. Within this empire lies Payu, a small and impoverished city. Inside a grand office in Payu, Brigadier General Kim Wongbang, Taeju's father and a top-tier master awakener, receives a shocking report. An officer informs him that there was an assassination attempt on Taeju at the frontline base. According to the official account, First Lieutenant Jang In-dong and his unit cornered Taeju during a patrol. However, while Taeju attempted to escape, the attackers were allegedly ambushed and killed by mutated monsters. Taeju, having miraculously survived the incident, was discharged from the military but has since gone missing. Wongbang lets out a deep sigh, questioning why anyone would target his eldest son. The officer then reveals that the attack was secretly orchestrated by individuals connected to Japanese factions. From this, Wongbang immediately deduces that his own wife, Honda Mitsui, is responsible. Honda Mitsui, the daughter of a powerful Japanese family integrated into the Samhan Empire, is also the mother of Taeju's two half-brothers, Taepyeong and Cheon. Wongbang understands her motives clearly. She intends to secure the inheritance of the Payu territory for her healthy, mana-compatible sons. For years, she had patiently waited for Taeju, a mana reject, to succumb to his condition. However, his survival up to the age of 29 appears to have pushed her to act. Determined to hasten the outcome, she leveraged her family's influence in the Kyushu region to arrange the assassination. Wongbang acknowledges that this act is a serious crime, one that crosses a moral line. However, he also recognizes the harsh reality of Payu's financial instability. The region heavily depends on the economic support of his wife's powerful family. Faced with this dilemma, Wongbang makes a calculated decision. He will conceal the truth behind the attempted murder. After dismissing the officer, the general reflects on his choice in silence. He convinces himself that Taeju was destined to die soon from mana poisoning regardless, and that prioritizing the future of Taepyeong and Cheon is the more practical path. Believing he will never see his eldest son again, Wongbang quietly bids Taeju a mental farewell, hoping that wherever he is, he can at least live the remainder of his life in freedom. At the Mount Yuri magical beast border zone within the Samhan Empire, a group of porters and awakeners stands overlooking a vast and breathtaking landscape. A carrier team leader gestures toward the distant skyline, introducing the wide expanse of Free City Yuri to his new teammate, Kim Taeju. Admitting that he himself hasn't been here long, the talkative leader enthusiastically begins explaining the city's history. He shares that, 300 years ago, Gyuri was once a small city in South Korea before becoming part of the Samhan Empire. Due to the high concentration of dangerous magical beasts in Mount Yuri, which require constant subjugation, the emperor designated Gyuri as a strategic hub and granted it free city status. This special designation exempts the city from monster part taxes and relaxes many regulations, even overlooking certain illegal activities. As a result, large numbers of ambitious awakeners flocked to the area, transforming Yuri into a thriving economic center that now produces over 20% of the Empire's magical beast resources. As he listens, Taeju quietly reflects on his own circumstances. After narrowly surviving the assassination attempt orchestrated by his stepmother, Honda Mitsui, and carried out by Jang In-dong, he chose to sever all ties with his past. He deliberately came to Free City Gyuri, where the Empire's law enforcement presence is minimal, making it extremely difficult for his powerful family in Payu to track him down. Additionally, the perilous environment of Mount Yiri, teeming with poisonous beasts and toxic flora, makes it the ideal place for Taeju to cultivate the primordial formless poison spirit art he inherited from Tangunak. Ironically, the very attempt on his life has provided him with the perfect opportunity to grow stronger. For now, lacking both the physical strength and financial resources to stand independently, Taeju chooses to remain low profile. He works as a porter for adventurer teams, using the role to safely build his body and refine his abilities. Interrupting his thoughts, the team leader proudly asks Taeju who he believes is the strongest member of their group. He then points toward a young female swordswoman named Lee Hanul, explaining that she is a professional awakener at the regular rank. Taeju acknowledges that reaching regular rank, one level above a beginner like Jang Indong, is indeed impressive. However, Taeju immediately senses something unusual about Lee Hanul. Her internal mana flow appears unstable and irregular. Moments later, she suddenly collapses to the ground. Panic spreads rapidly among the team as someone spots a mutant three-striped mosquito buzzing nearby. The frightened team leader urgently warns Taeju not to get bitten under any circumstances. A red-haired female awakener wielding a staff steps forward and confidently instructs everyone to stand back before incinerating the insect with a powerful fireball spell. Perplexed by the team's intense reaction to such a small creature, Taeju asks why a mere mosquito is causing such fear among trained fighters. The visibly shaken leader explains that the bite of a mutant three-striped mosquito temporarily nullifies a person's mana. In severe cases, it can even cause the victim to lose consciousness, as seen with Lee Hanul. He adds grimly that many entire teams have been wiped out in the wilderness after losing their ability to fight due to this very insect. Recognizing the symptoms, Taeju quickly searches through Tangunak's vast memories and identifies a poison from the martial arts world that perfectly matches the condition. Meanwhile, the rest of the team remains on high alert. The team leader nervously points out that they lack proper protective gear and suggests retreating immediately. Suddenly, the nearby bushes rustle. The men draw their weapons, bracing for an attack, only for a harmless long-tailed rabbit to hop out into the open. The tension briefly eases as the team recognizes it as a low-level creature. However, the moment of relief is short-lived. Without warning, a massive orc bursts from the forest and strikes one of the carriers with a heavy blade, seriously injuring him. In an instant, more orcs emerge from the surrounding trees, completely encircling the group. The red-haired mage immediately takes command, ordering the remaining carriers to evacuate with the injured man while she attempts to hold the monsters back. At that moment, Taeju calmly turns to the team leader and instructs him to retreat with the others, stating that he will remain behind. The leader protests, insisting that a mere porter has no place in such a dangerous battle. However, Taeju firmly explains that there are too many enemies for the mage to handle alone. After a brief hesitation, the leader entrusts Lee Hanul's safety to himself and agrees to withdraw, pleading with Taeju to survive. As the others fall back, Taeju carefully observes the battlefield. Drawing on the combat instincts inherited from his past life, he quickly notices something unusual. The orcs are moving with coordination and strategy. The red-haired mage unleashes a powerful fire lance, momentarily pushing back the advancing enemies. However, she soon notices one of the orcs breaking formation to pursue the fleeing carriers. Reacting quickly, she casts a massive firewall to block its path and protect her teammates. But in doing so, she leaves her back completely exposed. Seizing the opportunity, another orc moves in from behind, preparing to strike. Seeing the imminent danger, Taeju urgently calls out for her to duck, but she hesitates, not understanding his sudden warning. The scene shifts to the radiant and mysterious celestial realm, where exactly 1 month has passed since Tangunak, the supreme poison demon, arrived. Reflecting on his situation, Gunak realizes that reaching this godlike state was only possible because of his shared soul with Kim Taeju, which granted him new insights drawn from the advanced knowledge of Earth. However, His initial excitement has long faded, replaced by frustration and anger. He discovers that the so-called celestial realm is, in reality, a chaotic prison, designed to confine powerful and unruly martial artists and sect leaders who have ascended to this level. Surrounded by constant conflict and troublesome figures such as the notorious Master Jang Sambong, Gunnak sighs at his circumstances. Still, he chooses to remain optimistic. Through the connection of their shared soul, he checks on Taeju, hoping that the power and knowledge he passed down will guide the young man toward a better life. Gunnak concludes that, in order to stand against the modern awakened elites he witnessed in Taeju's memories, Taeju must continue training and reach the 7th star of the primordial formless poison spirit art. Back on Earth, just as the orc raises its heavy weapon to strike, Taeju swiftly closes the distance and shouts for her to duck. Trusting his warning, she narrowly avoids the fatal blow. Seizing the moment, Taeju unleashes a technique from his past life, the flying dagger art, Dagger Burst. Infusing ordinary coins with his potent green inner energy, he hurls them with precision. The coins shoot forward like high-speed projectiles. In an instant, the entire group collapses. Watching the enemies fall in a single strike, Taeju briefly acknowledges the overwhelming power of his technique. However, his attention quickly shifts when he realizes that, in the process of saving the mage, he inadvertently rendered her unconscious. Understanding the risks, Taeju decides to conceal his true strength. If it were revealed that an unmarked porter had single-handedly defeated a group of orcs, it would undoubtedly attract unwanted attention, possibly even reaching his father. Acting quickly, he begins removing all traces of his involvement by retrieving the coins he used as weapons from the fallen monsters and surrounding terrain. As he collects them, he reflects on the inconvenience of hidden weapon techniques, noting how costly and impractical they are due to their single-use nature. However, recalling Tang Gunnak's teachings, he remembers that once he reaches the 7th star, he will gain the ability to recall his weapons, eliminating this limitation. This thought further fuels his determination to grow stronger. After retrieving the last coin from a tree trunk, Taeju's sharpened senses detect a faint buzzing sound. Reacting instantly, he snatches a mutant 3-striped mosquito out of the air. Using Gunnak's extensive knowledge, Taeju carefully analyzes the insect and confirms that its venom closely resembles the energy-scattering poison from the martial arts world, which disrupts and temporarily nullifies a victim's internal energy flow. While this world has no known cure and relies solely on preventive measures, Taeju realizes he possesses the knowledge to create one. To fully understand the poison's composition, he takes a bold step and swallows the mosquito. The toxin spreads through his body, but thanks to his unique constitution, it is safely neutralized, confirming his hypothesis. He concludes that by incorporating a few native toxic plants from Mount Yiri, he can successfully develop a cure for the mosquito's bite. Recognizing the immense potential of this discovery, Taeju sees it as a groundbreaking opportunity that could bring him significant wealth. He resolves to test the formula as soon as he returns to the city. However, the ground shakes as a massive elite orc emerges from the dense forest, standing directly before him. Taeju narrows his eyes, questioning why such a powerful creature has appeared in this area. Taeju immediately recognizes it as an elite, a rare and highly dangerous awakened magical beast he had only heard about in stories. He quickly pieces together the strange chain of events on Mount Yiri, the mutant mosquito swarm, the coordinated orc assault, and now the sudden appearance of an elite in what should be a low-level border zone. Without hesitation, the elite orc swings its enormous axe downward. Drawing on Tang Gunnak's combat experience, Taeju narrowly evades the attack, but the sheer force of the strike shatters the ground, leaving a deep crater behind. Witnessing this overwhelming power, Taeju estimates that the creature's strength rivals that of an expert-level monster, far beyond the enemies he has faced so far. Deciding to probe its defenses, Taeju uses the flying dagger art, single flash, launching coins infused with his glowing green inner energy. However, the attack proves ineffective, The coins shatter upon impact with the elite orc's hardened skin. Realizing that even his precise techniques cannot penetrate its defenses, Taeju concludes that broader attacks like Dagger Shower would be useless. He briefly considers using the seal poison palm, but hesitates, questioning whether the poison would be potent enough. In that moment, Taeju feels a surge of shame. He realizes that such doubt would have disappointed the original Tang Gunnak. Acknowledging that he had grown overconfident after defeating weaker foes, Taeju refocuses, embracing the true discipline of the absolute poison demon. Resolving to fight without hesitation, he gathers his inner energy and strikes the elite orc directly with the seal poison palm. Unfortunately, the attack lands too shallowly, failing to inflict meaningful damage. At that critical moment, another awakener suddenly appears. With swift and overwhelming force, the newcomer takes down the elite orc almost instantly. Taeju watches in shock as a well-dressed man steps forward from the shadows, casually asking if Taeju was responsible for the scene. Noticing the absence of a facial mark, the man mocks Taeju, calling him worthless and questioning how he managed to defeat the orc group. Taeju immediately senses the immense power radiating from him. This is a master rank awakener. The man is revealed to be Lee Jung-hak, a Gyuri City Committee member, guard captain, and leader of the Nogadan Guild. Recognizing his authority and strength, Taeju chooses his words carefully. He bows respectfully and thanks Jung-hak for stepping in. Moments later, the carrier team leader and the rest of the group arrive. The leader anxiously checks on Taeju before asking about their supplies. Upon noticing Jung-hak, he quickly explains to Taeju that Gyuri operates as a free city governed by its own council. Jung-hak is one of the 3 committee members with voting power and serves as the master rank protector of the city, someone all carriers must pay to operate safely. Jung-hak sharply silences the leader and orders his subordinates to summon a cleanup crew. Urged by his boss, Taeju introduces himself as a traveling porter and offers a carefully constructed explanation, claiming that a powerful mage eliminated the orcs before collapsing due to mana exhaustion. Accepting the explanation, Jung-hak prepares to leave. However, before departing, he delivers a stern warning. If Taeju causes trouble in the future, he will not show mercy. After Jung-hak leaves, the team leader quietly cautions Taeju to stay away from him, hinting at his corrupt dealings and hidden ties to criminal elements. Left alone with his thoughts, Taeju reflects deeply on the encounter. He understands just how dangerous the situation could have become if Jung-hak had not intervened. It has only been a month since he inherited Tang Gunnak's power, yet he realizes he allowed himself to grow complacent after gaining quick victories over weaker opponents. With renewed determination, Taeju's eyes burn with resolve. He acknowledges his mistakes and vows to change, swearing to become far stronger than he is now. Gyuri, a free city within the Samhan Empire, has relatively developed infrastructure, with decent buildings and roads. However, it lacks one critical facility, a proper hospital. Due to the city's dangerous environment, skilled doctors rarely visit, leaving behind unqualified or fugitive practitioners whom residents actively avoid. As a result, Gyuri relies heavily on pharmacies. Pharmacists are permitted to prescribe and sell approved medications, making the pharmaceutical trade one of the most profitable businesses in the city. Recognizing this opportunity, Kim Taeju arrives in the bustling shopping district carrying a backpack. He reflects on the past month of hardship, working as a low-level porter during the day to earn money for materials, while rigorously training in ancient martial arts at night. Through Tang Gunnak's memories, he has successfully advanced to the 3rd stage of the primordial formless poison spirit art. This milestone grants him the precise inner energy control required to create a stable cure for the mutant 3-striped mosquito's venom. Confident in both his newfound strength and the value of his invention, Taeju enters Beck's pharmacy, one of the busiest pharmacies in the area. After passing a staff member, he directly requests to speak with the owner. An older man with a gray beard steps forward, introducing himself as Beck Hongpyo, the shop owner and head of a local children's home. Without hesitation, Taeju presents a brown bottle and states that he wishes to sell a newly developed cure for the mutant mosquito bite. Assuming Taeju is just another desperate fraud, Beck dismisses him and tells him to seek proper work instead. Remaining calm, Taeju explains that the medicine is taken orally and provides full protection against the poison for up to 10 hours. Beck reacts with visible irritation, arguing that even the Empire's leading pharmaceutical companies have failed to produce such a cure, making Taeju's claim seem highly unrealistic. Ignoring the criticism, Taeju places 2 additional bottles on the counter and confidently invites Beck to test the product. He leaves a contact number and firmly states that if he is not contacted by midnight, he will take his business elsewhere. Shortly after Taeju departs, a regular rank awakener named Park Jinsu enters the shop. Park quickly notices the bottles. Upon hearing they are meant to cure mosquito venom, he impulsively grabs one and drinks it in a single gulp, despite attempts from Beck and the staff to stop him. Afterward, he expresses disappointment, remarking that the liquid tastes no different from ordinary water. Drawing on his extensive experience with potions, he claims that authentic medicine typically emits some form of mana or energy, whereas this one shows no such signs. Concluding that Taeju is likely a fraud, Park advises Beck to discard the remaining bottles. Although Beck remains somewhat uncertain due to Taeju's confidence, he ultimately shifts his attention as Park settles a large bill, over 3 million won, before leaving for a planned hunt targeting mutant frogs. Later that evening, Park Jinsu's team encounters an unexpected and dangerous situation. Instead of facing simple mutant frogs, they are ambushed by a highly aggressive group of blade-toothed martens. During the chaotic battle, the team's protective suits are shredded by the creature's sharp claws. As the situation worsens, a swarm of mutant, 3-striped mosquitoes descends upon the exposed awakeners. Park struggles to maintain a defensive barrier, shielding his retreating teammates from the relentless martens. Suddenly, he feels a sharp sting on his neck. Realizing in horror that he has been bitten by one of the mosquitoes, Park panics. He knows that the venom will disrupt his inner mana flow, potentially paralyzing him and leaving his entire team vulnerable. A female awakener urgently warns her team leader to be careful as a mutant blade-toothed marten lunges straight at him. Regular rank awakener Park Jinsu braces for impact as the beast crashes into his defensive barrier, shattering his magical shield into glowing fragments. However, in that critical moment, a shocking realization breaks through his fear. Despite being bitten earlier by a mutant 3-striped mosquito, his inner strength remains stable. His mana flow is completely unaffected. Park instantly understands the truth. The plain, tasteless liquid given to him by the mysterious young man was not ordinary water. It was a genuine, flawless cure. With his confidence restored and his full power intact, Park grips his weapon firmly and prepares to counterattack. Encouraged by this unexpected turn, he realizes he now has a real chance to survive the battle and protect his team. Later that same night, back in the city, Baek Hongpyo is quietly closing Beck's pharmacy when the front door suddenly bursts open, the bell ringing loudly. Park Jinsu rushes inside in a panic, calling out for the owner. Still catching his breath, he urgently asks for the mosquito cure from earlier that day. He immediately inquires about the price and declares that he is willing to buy every bottle available. The scene then shifts to the lively streets of Giri Market the following day. Kim Taeju walks through the bustling crowd, enjoying a rare break from his exhausting work as a porter. Taeju reflects on his recent growth. To successfully create the mosquito antidote, he had pushed himself to reach the 3rd star of the primordial formless poison spirit art. This advancement granted him the precise control needed to extract and refine medicinal properties from local toxic plants. However, forcing this breakthrough placed a heavy strain on his newly formed poison essence, leaving his body temporarily weakened. For now, he must focus on recovery rather than intense combat. As he continues walking, Taeju recalls his recent business deal with Beck. During their meeting, Beck eagerly agreed to purchase the entire batch of cure bottles, praising the medicine as a revolutionary advancement for hunters operating on Mount Yuri. Apologizing for his earlier skepticism, Beck carefully reviewed the contract. Taeju had strategically set the base price at 10,000 won per bottle, allowing the pharmacy to resell them at 50,000 won, while assigning Beck full responsibility for regulatory approval and distribution. In reality, Taeju's production cost was less than 100 won per bottle. For the initial batch of 60,000 bottles, Beck provided a massive payment of 30 billion won. After the Free City's relatively low 10% tax, Taeju would retain approximately 27 billion won. Aware that Beck uses his earnings to support a local children's home, Taeju made a generous offer. He agreed to supply the medicine exclusively to Beck for 1 year at a slightly increased base price, willingly sacrificing some profit to support the cause. In return, he requested access to a secure production facility. Deeply moved, Beck accepted the offer and praised Taeju's character. Back in the present, Taeju, now financially secure, begins searching for equipment. Suddenly, a large, muscular blacksmith grabs his hoodie and insists that he needs a proper weapon. Although Taeju initially declines, the persistent shop owner continues urging him inside, even jokingly offering a discount. Despite his annoyance, Taeju is surprised by the man's physical strength, briefly wondering if he might be a hidden martial arts expert. Entering the shop, Taeju examines the displayed weapons, swords, shields, and hammers, impressed by their craftsmanship, especially when judged against the high standards from Gunak's memories. He decides to place a custom order, presenting a detailed design for 100 willow leaf daggers. After reviewing the design, the blacksmith notes that they are too small to function as standard throwing knives. Taeju confirms their intended purpose, prompting the blacksmith to suggest forging them from mana steel, a durable material enhanced with mana, for maximum effectiveness. The total cost is set at 250 million won. Though Taeju internally acknowledges how expensive true martial arts training can be, he pays the full amount without hesitation and provides his address for delivery. After leaving the shop, Taeju considers his next purchase. He realizes he needs proper clothing capable of concealing his hidden weapons. Drawing from Gunak's memories, he recalls how ancient masters concealed weapons and poisons within layered robes. However, imagining himself wearing traditional attire in a modern city, he dismisses the idea as impractical and attention-grabbing. Fortunately, a solution presents itself when a model approaches him and hands him a promotional flyer for Flame Boutique. The advertisement features modern coats crafted from durable magical beast leather. Taeju's eyes light up as he recognizes the perfect solution. In the free city of Gyuri, within the territories of the Samhan Empire, a 2-story public tram glides smoothly through the busy city streets. Inside, Jong Yeonhee, the heir apparent of the Baekdu group, sits beside her secretary, Kim. Through the window, they observe the castle, a striking island city surrounded by towering walls. Secretary Kim explains that the castle is heavily restricted and accessible only by boat, serving as a fortified enclave for Gyuri's wealthy elites, high-ranking awakeners, and influential officials. Yeonhee dismisses it with visible disdain, criticizing it as a hollow display of status and expressing discomfort toward those in power who isolate themselves under the guise of safety. Shifting the topic, Secretary Kim asks if Yeonhee truly traveled all the way to Gyuri just to purchase a fox fur coat. Yeonhee clarifies that it is no ordinary fur, but the rare Siberian phantom fox, a highly elusive magical beast. Armor crafted from its fur is known for its exceptional durability, while also naturally regulating temperature to keep the wearer cool in summer and warm in winter. As the tram announces its stop at Gyuri Market, Yeonhee and her secretary disembark and head toward Flame Boutique to see the highly anticipated coat in person. Meanwhile, in the bustling market outside, Kim Taeju carefully reviews a sales catalog for Flame Boutique. Drawing upon Tang Gunak's ancient memories, he realizes that a modern coat made from reinforced monster leather would serve as the perfect replacement for a jangpo. Confident that it aligns perfectly with his former combat techniques, Taeju enters the store. Inside the upscale boutique, Yeonhee and Secretary Kim are already being personally assisted by the shop's elegant, red-haired owner. Hearing the doorbell ring, She briefly steps away from her VIP customers to greet the new arrival. However, the moment her eyes land on Taeju, she freezes in shock, immediately recognizing him as the porter from the monster hunting team a month earlier. Taeju awkwardly attempts to deny knowing her, asking if they have met before. However, the shop owner firmly states that she is the mage who participated in the expedition that was attacked by a coordinated orc group. Realizing his cover has been exposed, Taeju lets out a resigned sigh and decides to tell the truth. He explains that he intentionally allowed her to take credit for defeating the orcs and faked collapsing from mana exhaustion, all in order to quietly remain in Gyuri without drawing attention to his lack of an awakener facial mark or attracting unwanted scrutiny. The red-haired mage completely ignores Taeju's explanation and instead expresses sincere gratitude. She explains that thanks to his intervention, she was able to survive the devastating incident. Taeju, however, feels slightly uncomfortable with the heartfelt praise. He quietly admits to himself that his actions were not driven by pure intentions, but rather by his desire to test his newly acquired martial arts skills against an elite-class monster. At that moment, Secretary Kim abruptly interrupts the conversation, angrily scolding the shop owner for making Lady Jong Yeonhee wait when they had already come to finalize the purchase. In response, the shop owner bows deeply to Yeonhee and unexpectedly states that she can no longer sell the selected coat, as an urgent situation has arisen and her finest item is now needed elsewhere. Secretary Kim reacts with frustration and outrage at the wasted time, but Yeonhee remains composed. Displaying her refined demeanor, she calmly accepts the refusal without complaint and chooses to leave the store peacefully. After the group departs, Taeju asks the shop owner why she suddenly withdrew such a valuable item from sale. The mage lightly teases him, noting that he is not very perceptive, and then reveals that she intends to give him the priceless silver fox fur coat completely free of charge as repayment for saving her life. Taeju immediately refuses the offer, honestly admitting that his actions were not driven by noble intentions. However, the mage gently counters that his motives are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is that she survived. She insists that he accept it and use his strength to protect others in the future so that more lives can be saved. Deeply moved by the genuine gratitude, something he has rarely experienced in his life as a despised mana reject, Taeju softly smiles and finally accepts the coat. Far away from Earth, in the mystical realm, Sword Immortal Dongbin floats leisurely on his flying sword among the clouds, complaining about how unbearably dull the realm has become. He notes that nearly every ascended master looks identical: white robes, long white hair, and long beards. However, he notices that the newest arrival, Tang Gunnak, the supreme poison demon, stands out sharply from the rest. Through the shared soul connection with Taeju and the knowledge of Earth's future, Gunnak has dramatically altered his appearance, cutting his hair, trimming his beard, and adopting strange modern clothing never seen in the heaven realm. He quickly concludes that befriending someone so unusual might be the perfect cure for his endless boredom. Intrigued by the unfamiliar clothing style, Dongbin summons a glowing heavenly Dao Peach. Smiling with anticipation, the Sword Immortal decides to use the rare, energy-rich fruit as a bribe to persuade Tang Gunnak to teach him this strange and entertaining new fashion from another world. At Baek's children's home in Gyuri City, pharmacist Baek Hongpyo urgently contacts Kim Taeju, explaining that news of the mutant mosquito cure's effectiveness has spread rapidly. Panic buying and excessive demand have nearly depleted their entire stock, forcing Baek to urge Taeju to prepare more medicine as quickly as possible. Working in the basement of the children's home, Taeju informs Baek that production of the purified medicine is already complete. To control the overwhelming demand, he suggests announcing a stable supply while enforcing a strict purchase limit of 2 bottles per person. Baek expresses concern that the product's popularity may attract counterfeit versions, but Taeju confidently assures him that replication is impossible. Drawing on Tang Gunnak's memories as the supreme poison demon, Taeju explains that unless someone masters the formless primordial poison spirit art, it is impossible to recreate the formula. Even in the unlikely event of imitation, he adds, they can simply develop an entirely new variation. He then complains that the bottling process is far more exhausting than actually creating the medicine, noting that he has been stuck packing 20,000 bottles in the basement without showering for a week. Suddenly, the basement door creaks open. Two orphaned children peek inside, frightened by the dim room and Taiju's disheveled appearance. Mistaking him for a smelly ghost, they scream and quickly run away. Taiju is left slightly stunned, wondering if he really smells that bad after just a week without bathing. Shortly afterward, Baek Seo-yeon, a caretaker from the children's home, comes downstairs to investigate the commotion. Finding Taiju instead, she hands him a delivered package from the MX weapon shop. Before leaving, she politely suggests that he use the first-floor shower to clean up. Alone again, Taiju excitedly opens the package and discovers a test version of the willow leaf flying dagger he had specially ordered, then tests the blade's weight and balance. Judging it by the strict standards of his past life, he confirms that the weapon is sharp, durable, and perfectly suited for his techniques. This further increases his anticipation for the arrival of his monster leather coat. Realizing he is running late for a meeting, he quickly goes to shower before heading out. Later, at the Mount Yiri monster border zone, Taiju arrives at the rendezvous point dressed as a porter. He greets Boss O and apologizes for being late, despite actually arriving on time. However, the atmosphere among the hunting team is hostile. Beginner rank Awakener Jang Wonjun immediately begins mocking Taiju, insulting him for being a low-level porter without a facial Awakener mark and demanding an apology. Taiju calmly responds that he is not late and sees no reason to apologize. Enraged by his defiance, Wonjun draws his sword and threatens him. Sensing the rising tension, Boss O quickly intervenes and quietly pleads with Taiju to endure the mistreatment, explaining that canceling the contract would result in a massive penalty fee. Accustomed to such behavior from his past experiences, Taiju decides to de-escalate the situation and offers a formal apology. However, he soon notices something unusual. The team consists of only 7 members. He questions why such a small group has been assembled, as a mission of this scale typically requires at least 15 people. Another beginner-rank Awakener, Hunt Team Leader Kwon Dong-suk, explains that the newly developed mosquito cure reduces risk, allowing them to operate with fewer personnel due to the absence of heavy protective suits. Taiju warns that this decision significantly endangers the unarmed porters. As preparations conclude, Boss O hands Taiju his personal bottle of the mosquito cure, reassuring him that the presence of 2 Awakeners should ensure relative safety. Taiju looks at the bottle, feeling a sense of pride that his creation is saving lives. Yet internally, something within him continues to shift. He realizes that his desire to kill has surfaced twice already simply from dealing with arrogant individuals. He understands that his connection with Tang Gunnak is influencing him, merging his mindset with the poisonous heart of the absolute poison demon, a ruthless philosophy focused on eliminating threats without hesitation. Rather than resisting it, Taiju accepts this change, recognizing that his former gentler nature would not be enough to survive in this world. As a cold, killing intent stirs from deep within the forest, Taiju drops his restrained persona. He turns to Boss O with completely serious eyes and firmly instructs him to stay close at all times during the hunt. Confused, Boss O asks why it would be safer to stay near a porter rather than the armed Awakeners, but Taiju calmly insists that he is not joking as they step into the dangerous wilderness. In the ancient martial arts world, a brutal battle unfolds inside the ruined residence of the Zhuge family. Tang Gunnak, the absolute poison demon, coldly looks down at Zhuge Cheon, the severely injured head of the Zhuge family, also known as the Lightning Demon. Zhuge Cheon angrily demands to know if Tang Gunnak has lost his mind for daring to attack one of the prestigious 5 great families. Unmoved, Tang Gunnak calmly responds that the entire world is already aware of the Zhuge family's secret alliance with the demonic group. Zhuge Cheon desperately tries to deny the accusation, calling it falsehoods, but Tang Gunnak immediately shuts him down, stating that members of the demonic group always claim innocence when exposed. Terrified, Cheon trembles and begs for his life, offering to reveal everything he knows about the heavenly demon. However, Tang Gunak coldly rejects his pleas, stating that the heavenly demon will soon join him in hell regardless. The scene then transitions back to the present at the dangerous Mount Yiri monster border zone. The hunting team has just completed a successful raid and proudly boasts about defeating a pack of Bladetooth Martens without the need for specialized protective gear, completely disregarding the fact that their success was made possible by Taiju's mosquito cure. One of the Awakeners mocks Taiju, calling him a useless and cowardly porter. Hearing their ridicule, Taiju sharply glares at them, momentarily tempted to eliminate the arrogant men. He is fully aware that they are destined to die sooner or later, but he restrains himself. He quietly assesses the team's strength, noting that they only consist of 2 beginner rank and 3 adept rank awakeners, and questions whether they would even be able to survive the true dangers lurking within the forest. Sensing danger, Baso nervously asks Taiju what is happening. Taiju calmly replies that a well-known magical beast ambush is about to begin. A massive creature then bursts out from the foliage. Baso immediately recognizes it as a red-furred wolf and panics, explaining that it requires at least a regular rank awakener to handle. He further warns that the most dangerous aspect of red-furred wolves is that they always hunt in pairs. Right on time, a second massive wolf emerges from the shadows and strikes at one of the awakener named Sengchul. The sudden attack throws the entire team into chaos. Hunt team leader Kwon Dong-suk and Jang Wonjun panic immediately, showing no intention of organizing a proper defense. Instead, Wonjun cowardly suggests their usual tactic, using the unarmed porters as bait so the awakeners can escape safely. Hearing this cruel proposal, Boss O desperately turns to Taiju, begging him to do something as the situation turns life-threatening. In response, Taiju steps forward with absolute calm and finally releases his hidden power. Drawing on the martial arts of his past life, he executes the dagger art, one flash. He hurls a hidden blade infused with his glowing green inner energy. The attack streaks forward and defeats the red-furred wolf with a single decisive strike. In the process, it also injures Dong-suk's ear as he attempts to retreat after mocking Taiju earlier. Even Boss O is stunned, cautiously asking Taiju how he managed to kill the wolf so easily. At that moment, the remaining red-furred wolf realizes its partner has been killed and turns its attention toward Taiju. However, Taiju coldly commands it to stay back, stating that he is in a bad mood. The beast hesitates, visibly intimidated, and remains frozen in place. Taiju then calmly walks forward and questions the group, asking if this is how they always operate, throwing the weak into danger to protect themselves. Regaining a shred of confidence, Wonjun angrily defends their actions, claiming it is only natural for the weak to defend the stronger awakeners. Hearing this exact mindset, Taiju decides they need to experience true fear for themselves. He orders them to handle the remaining wolf since he has already taken care of its partner. Wonjun laughs in disbelief and mocks the idea, questioning whether Taiju truly believes he can command an awakener. As the second red-furred wolf closes in aggressively, a female awakener breaks down in panic and begs Taiju to kill it for them, even offering to pay any price. Taiju then sits casually on a nearby rock, gazing down at the terrified group. He mockingly reminds them that he is only a low-level porter, while they are the elite awakeners. With that, he leaves them to face the approaching beast on their own, as panic fully overtakes the team.